A homeless girl was caught trespassing in a billionaire's private garden. Security rushed to throw her out, but then the paralyzed boy in the window did something that stopped everyone cold. He smiled for the first time in 2 years. What this girl did next didn't just change his life. It exposed a secret that would shake the entire family to its core. Marcus Wellington owned half the tech companies in Silicon Valley. The Wellington name opened doors that money alone couldn't buy. He had invented software that revolutionized banking, and by 42, he was worth $8 billion. But in his penthouse overlooking the San Francisco Bay, his teenage son Daniel sat motionless, staring at walls that felt like prison bars. Daniel was 17 when the diving accident happened. A perfect summer day at their Lake Tahoe estate. One dive from the dock, one miscalculation, and his spine shattered against a hidden rock. The doctors said he'd never walk again, never stand, never feel anything below his chest. Daniel, who'd been a champion swimmer, debate team captain, and the boy everyone expected to follow his father's genius footsteps, became a shell. He stopped talking except in one-word answers. He refused physical therapy. He turned away visitors. His eyes, once bright with ambition, became hollow windows into despair. Marcus tried everything his empire could buy. Experimental surgeries in Switzerland, stem cell treatments in Japan, robotic exoskeletons from Germany. Each time, Daniel's hope would flicker, then die when results fell short. After 2 years of failures, Daniel stopped hoping entirely. He stopped trying. And Marcus, for all his billions, couldn't buy back his son's will to live. The Wellington mansion sat behind electric gates, security cameras on every corner, guards patrolling 24/7. It was a fortress built to keep the world out, and it kept Daniel trapped inside. Marcus worked 18-hour days now, not because the companies needed him, but because he couldn't bear watching his son fade away. Daniel's room faced the garden, but he never looked out anymore. He just sat there, day after day, his wheelchair positioned by the window like a monument to everything they'd lost. The physical therapist came 3 times a week. Daniel went through the motions without speaking, his face blank, his eyes dead. She told Marcus quietly one evening, "He's given up. His body could improve with effort, but his mind has left the building." Marcus stood at his son's doorway that night, watching Daniel stare at nothing. "What do I do?" he whispered to the empty hallway. "How do I fight an enemy I can't see? How do I fix what money can't buy?" The house felt enormous and suffocating at the same time. 30 rooms, 12 bathrooms, an Olympic pool Daniel would never swim in again, a basketball court gathering dust. Everywhere Marcus looked, he saw ghosts of who his son used to be. Daniel's mother had left a year after the accident. She couldn't handle it, she'd said. The grief was too much. She remarried within 6 months, some European entrepreneur she'd met at a charity gala. She sent Daniel birthday cards, but never visited. That betrayal had carved out whatever hope Daniel had left. "I'm tired, Dad," Daniel had said one night, his voice barely audible. Not tired like sleepy. Tired like he was ready to stop existing. That was the sentence that terrified Marcus most. Because he heard what his son wasn't saying. "I want to give up entirely." Her name was Maya, though she told different people different names depending on whether she thought they'd call the police. She was 14, looked 12, and lived in a tent city under the highway overpass with 40 other forgotten souls. Maya's story was written in the scars on her arms and the wariness in her eyes. Her mother had been addicted to meth. Her father was a ghost she'd never met. Social services had cycled her through 7 foster homes by age 12. Some were neglectful. 2 were abusive. The last one, the one she'd run from 8 months ago, had a foster father whose hands wandered at night and a foster mother who called her a liar when she tried to tell. So Maya chose the streets. At least there, she knew who the enemies were. She learned to move quietly, to sleep light, to trust no one. She stole food from convenience stores, showered in public restrooms, and kept everything she owned in a backpack she never let out of her sight. But Maya had one thing that poverty and trauma couldn't kill. She could dance. Not ballet or jazz or anything formal. She'd learned by watching street performers, by mimicking music videos on phone screens outside electronic stores, by letting her body speak what her voice couldn't. When she danced, the hunger disappeared. The fear quieted. The memories of hands in the dark and voices calling her worthless faded into rhythm and movement. She danced on street corners for dollar bills. She danced in subway stations for quarters. And on particularly hard nights, When the cold bit too deep and hope felt too far away, she danced alone under streetlights just to remind herself she was still alive. One afternoon, Maya was walking through the wealthy neighborhood where she sometimes checked car door handles for forgotten change. She noticed the Wellington mansion, impossible to miss with its marble columns and manicured hedges. But what caught her eye wasn't the wealth. It was the boy in the window. He sat perfectly still, his face pressed against the glass, but his eyes were the emptiest things she'd ever seen. And Maya had seen empty eyes in mirrors, in homeless camps, in the faces of people who'd stopped fighting. But this boy had everything. She could see it in the mansion behind him, in the expensive wheelchair, in the quality of the window glass itself. Yet his eyes looked exactly like hers had, 2 years ago, before she'd found dancing. Something twisted in Maya's chest. She thought, I know that look. I know what it means when you're breathing, but not really alive. The garden wall had a section where the iron bars were just wide enough. She was small, flexible from years of dancing and surviving. She slipped through, heart pounding, knowing this was stupid, knowing she'd get arrested. But she couldn't shake the image of those empty eyes. She stepped into the garden, positioned herself where the boy could see her through his window, and began to dance. Not for money, not for food, not for any reason that made logical sense. She danced because she'd been that empty once, and someone, a street performer named Jackson who let her sleep in his doorway, had played music for her when she'd wanted to disappear. He'd said, sometimes we gotta remind each other that beauty still exists. Maya danced with every ounce of fierce, defiant life she had left. Her movements were sharp, then fluid, then explosive. She spun and leaped and moved like water, like fire, like a storm that refused to be contained. She danced the anger of foster homes. She danced the loneliness of cold nights. She danced the stubborn, ridiculous hope that things could be different. Inside, Daniel's eyes focused for the first time in months. Daniel couldn't look away. This girl, this wild, fierce girl dancing in his garden like she owned it, was the most alive thing he'd seen in 2 years. Her clothes were dirty, her hair tangled, her shoes falling apart. But the way she moved, it was like watching freedom in human form. She did a spinning jump, landed, and caught his eye through the window. Instead of stopping, embarrassed at being caught, she grinned and waved. Then she did an exaggerated, goofy curtsy that was so ridiculous Daniel's mouth twitched. He smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. The muscles in his face had almost forgotten how. Marcus was in his study when his assistant knocked frantically. Sir, there's an intruder in the garden. But Daniel, you need to see this. Marcus rushed to the window. Security was already running toward the girl, but Daniel's voice, his son's actual voice, rang out. Wait, don't make her leave. Everyone froze. Daniel hadn't spoken a full sentence in 6 months. The girl stood in the center of the garden, breathing hard, looking ready to run. But her chin was up, defiant. She wasn't begging or apologizing. She was just there. Real. Unashamed. What's your name? Marcus called from the balcony. Maya, she said, her voice rough but steady. Why are you here? Maya looked up at Daniel's window, then back at Marcus. Your son looked sad. I know what sad looks like. I thought maybe dancing would help. It helps me. Such a simple answer. Such a staggeringly simple answer to a problem that had cost millions to fail to solve. Daniel spoke again, his voice stronger. She can stay, Dad. Please. Marcus studied this homeless girl with tangled hair and fierce eyes. Every instinct told him to send her away. She was a stranger, a trespasser, a liability. But his son had smiled. His son had spoken. His son's eyes looked alive again. 20 minutes, Marcus said carefully. You dance. We watch. Then you leave. Understood. Maya nodded. Can I come back tomorrow? Daniel answered before Marcus could. Yes. Maya came back the next day, and the next, and the one after that. Each afternoon at 4 o'clock, she slipped through the garden bars. Marcus had quietly instructed security to let her through, and she danced. But it wasn't just dancing anymore. She talked while she moved, telling stories about the streets in a way that made them sound like adventures instead of tragedies. She told him about Jackson, the street musician who played saxophone and shared his sandwich. About Rita, the old woman at the soup kitchen who always saved Maya an extra cookie. About the community under the bridge who looked out for each other because everyone else had forgotten them. Daniel started asking questions. Real questions. Where do you sleep? How do you stay safe? Don't you get scared? Terrified, every night, Maya admitted. But scared is better than nothing. At least when you're scared, you're still fighting. That hit Daniel like a physical blow. He'd stopped being scared. He'd stopped feeling anything at all. Maya noticed his therapy equipment gathering dust in the corner. What's that stuff? Physical therapy equipment, Daniel muttered. Doesn't work. Or you stopped working, Maya said, not unkindly. I get it. Why try when trying just hurts more, right? Daniel looked at her sharply. You don't know what it's like. You're right. I don't know what it's like to lose your legs. But I know what it's like to lose everything else. I know what it's like when people look through you like you're already gone. I know what it's like to decide maybe it's easier to disappear. She stopped dancing and looked at him directly. But here's the thing. You're still breathing. That means you're still fighting, even if you don't feel like you are. That night, Daniel asked his father to move his chair closer to the therapy equipment. One week in, Maya asked if she could touch Daniel's legs. Marcus tensed, protective, but Daniel said yes. Maya pressed her fingers into his calf muscles. These are tight. Really tight. You've been sitting still too long. She started kneading them, her movements surprisingly confident. How do you know how to do that? Marcus asked, suspicious. At the camp, there's a guy named Tommy. He used to be a physical therapist before he lost his job and his house. He taught me stuff, massage, stretching, because people hurt all the time when they're sleeping on concrete. I help when I can. She worked on Daniel's legs with practiced hands, explaining what she was doing in terms Tommy had taught her. Circulation's important. Even if you can't feel it, your body needs movement. After 30 minutes, Daniel said, that feels different. Not feeling exactly, but different. Marcus watched this homeless 14-year-old do what his expensive therapists hadn't. Make his son want to try again. That night, Marcus did something impulsive. He found Maya preparing to leave and handed her an envelope with $500. For your time. Maya stared at it, then handed it back. I don't want money for this. Money makes it a job. This is something else. Then what do you want? Marcus asked, genuinely confused. Maya looked back at the mansion, at the window where Daniel watched. I want to keep coming back. That's all. Marcus realized something profound. This girl wasn't looking for rescue. She was offering it. 3 weeks in, Maya arrived with a challenge. Today you're going to move. Maya, I can't, Daniel started. Not walk. Not yet. But you're going to try something. Even if it's tiny. Even if it fails. Because trying is how you tell the universe you're still here. She had Daniel visualize his toes. Don't try to move them. Just think about them. Picture them in your mind. Remember what they felt like. Daniel closed his eyes. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. Then, a tiny twitch. So small it was almost invisible. But Maya saw it. There. Do that again. Daniel's eyes flew open. Did I? You moved your left big toe. Do it again. Show me. Sweat broke out on Daniel's forehead. He concentrated with an intensity Marcus hadn't seen in 2 years. The toe moved again. Definitely moved. Daniel let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. I felt it. I actually felt something. Maya was crying and grinning at the same time. That's your body waking up. That's you fighting back. Marcus had to sit down. His hands were shaking. How did you? I didn't do anything, Maya said. He did. He just needed a reason to try. From that day, Daniel worked. He worked with an obsession that burned away the emptiness. Maya pushed him, encouraged him, never let him quit. Even if you never walk again, she told him, you can still be alive again. That's what matters. Marcus hired private investigators, not to investigate Maya, but to help her. He wanted to find her proper housing, get her into school, give her stability. What they discovered instead changed everything. Mr. Wellington, we found something. The investigator said, his voice grave. Maya's last foster placement, the one she ran from? There's an active warrant out for her. Not for running. For theft. The foster family claims she stole jewelry and $3,000 in cash. Marcus's blood ran cold. Did she? The evidence is thin, but they filed charges. If police find her, she goes to juvenile detention, possibly adult court, depending on the DA. She's been hiding for 8 months. That night, Marcus confronted Maya. She didn't deny it. She didn't run either. I didn't take their jewelry, she said quietly. But I took the cash. $300, not $3,000. They're lying about the amount. I took it because I heard them planning to report their car stolen for insurance fraud, and I knew they'd blame me. I took enough to survive until I could get far away. Why didn't you explain this to the police? Maya laughed bitterly. I'm a homeless kid who ran from foster care. They're a respected family in a nice neighborhood. Who do you think they'd believe? Marcus saw the impossible position. If he helped Maya officially, put her in his home, enrolled her in school, the system would find her. She'd be arrested, potentially incarcerated. But if he did nothing, she'd keep living on the streets, vulnerable to worse fates. The crisis came when a security guard recognized Maya from a missing persons poster at the police station. He reported it, thinking he was doing the right thing. Within hours, a squad car pulled up to the Wellington mansion. Daniel, who could now move 3 toes and had feeling returning to his left foot, wheeled himself to the front door. "She's not going anywhere," he said, his voice steel. "Son, she's a minor with active warrants," the officer said gently. "This isn't up to you." "Then arrest me too," Daniel said. "Because she saved my life. She gave me a reason to wake up every morning. She taught me that strength isn't about walking. It's about refusing to give up. If you take her, you're not protecting anyone. You're punishing someone for surviving." Marcus stepped forward. "Officer, I'm hiring the best legal team in the state. Whatever she's accused of, we'll fight. But she stays here, under my guardianship, until this is resolved." The Foster family, seeing who they were up against, suddenly became very nervous. When Marcus's lawyers deposed them, the truth came out. The jewelry had never existed. The cash theft was real, but only $300, not $3,000. And there were CPS reports, buried reports, from neighbors who'd suspected abuse in the home. The charges were dropped. The Foster parents faced investigation instead, and Marcus formally filed for guardianship. Maya cried when he told her, "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." "I know you saved my son," Marcus said. "I know you gave him something I couldn't. Hope. I know you're brave and loyal and fierce. And I know every kid deserves a safe place to sleep at night." Daniel wheeled up beside his father. "Also your family now. That's just how it is." 6 months later, Daniel walked, slowly, with braces and effort, but he walked across the stage to receive his high school diploma. Maya, sitting in the front row in a dress Marcus had bought her. The Wellington mansion was different now. Music played in the hallways. Laughter echoed in rooms that had been silent. Daniel and Maya argued over TV shows, conspired on pranks, studied together for her entrance exams. She'd enrolled in school and was thriving despite the gaps in her education. Marcus found himself becoming a father again, not just to Daniel, but to this fierce, damaged, brilliant girl who decided his family was worth saving. He learned to braid hair badly, to navigate teenage girl drama even worse, and to understand that sometimes the family you build is stronger than the one you're born with. Maya still danced, but now she danced in a studio Marcus had built in the mansion, teaching other kids from the street. Daniel joined her, moving in his chair, then with his walker, then finally, on good days, on his own 2 feet. The local news eventually picked up the story. Billionaire's son rescued by homeless teen, both now thriving. But they got it wrong, Marcus thought. Maya hadn't rescued Daniel. They'd rescued each other. One evening, Marcus found them in the garden where it had all started. Maya was teaching Daniel a new routine. They were laughing, stumbling, trying again. The golden hour light made them glow. "Hey, Dad," Daniel called. "Come dance with us." Marcus, who hadn't danced in decades, who'd forgotten how to do anything that wasn't productive or profitable, hesitated. Then he saw their faces, expectant, welcoming, alive, and he stepped into the garden. They were terrible, all 3 of them. Offbeat, clumsy, ridiculous. And it was the most perfect moment of Marcus Wellington's entire life. Because he'd learned what Maya had known all along. Wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in moments that make you grateful to be alive. In people who see you when you're invisible. In second chances that cost nothing and mean everything. And sometimes, the most valuable thing a person can give you is the reminder that you're worth saving. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from, and share your own stories of unexpected friendships that changed everything. Don't forget to subscribe to Folktales by Olivia for more emotional, powerful, and unforgettable stories about the moments that remind us what it means to be human. Until next time, remember, the people who save us are rarely the ones we expect. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone is simply showing them they matter. Stay kind, stay strong, and keep watching.